Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Talamo. Welcome to Tea Time, New Jersey Tea Party Coalition's Tea Time show. We come and we give you the information on what's happening on the conservative front. And tonight we're truly lucky to have with us our guest, RoseAnn Salanitri. RoseAnn is not only the founder of the Sussex County Tea Party Patriots, she's also the founder and initiator of the Right to Recall, and that is the movement to recall Senator Menendez. During her, and including that, during her spare time, what she also does is she's an author, and she has written a book, and she additionally has a show on the radio. And so we're going to interview tonight our guest, RoseAnn. Welcome, RoseAnn.
Good to be here, Michelle.
Yes.
Great to be with you, as always.
Yes, wonderful. We know each other. We have met on the Tea Party circuit, have been involved in some initiatives together. So why don't we at least discuss, I don't know the story. How did Sussex County Tea Party Patriots, how did that begin? How did you get involved in the Tea Party movement?
Well, you know how it goes. We get everybody's email list. And I had gotten an email, I think it was from Newt Gingrich's group, Solutions. And they said, would you like to organize a tea party in your community? And we had been hearing about this. Everybody was just so upset by what was going on in the country. We saw, you know, the handwriting was pretty much on the wall for most of us. So I said, that's a great idea. Yeah, put me in. And it connected me to the Tea Party Patriot site. And I signed up as a organizer for Sussex County. And they were pretty good. I mean, they gave you a list of things you could do to promote it. And it was about 2 weeks from the 15th, April 15th, 2009. So I just did everything that they said to do, just had my little checklist, went through there, do this, contact your radio stations, put in notices here and there, and did that. And we had a pretty nice turnout. In fact, Scott Garrett, Congressman Garrett, came and he spoke, and our Assemblyman Gary Cinzano, and they were great, and Len Zio from the New Jersey Family Policy Council. And it was a great time, and it really launched the Tea Party in Sussex County. So we're blessed. It's a semi-rural community, but it's a very conservative community. So it's almost a throwback to the 50s. So we had a good turnout. We have a good group up there. I'm really honored to be working with them.
Now, where did you actually have the Tea Party gathering?
We actually had it in a parking lot from someone I know who, well, now it's the Sears Mall, and it's a mall by us. It's kind of small by most standards, but not for Sussex County. And he says, have it by me, and he gave us permission to have it in his parking lot, and he roped off a big section of it. And he came in with this huge flag. I've never seen a flag so big in my entire life. And he had it on some kind of a lift, and he just, he had it over the whole event. It was great.
So he's a real patriot.
He's a real patriot. I knew that. I knew that.
Now, were people curious? Did they walk up to the group to see what it was about, those that did not hear about it, just a passerby?
Well, what he did was he put it on his marquee.
Oh, he did.
So we had a pretty good turnout. I was amazed, actually. We took 2 weeks to plan it, and I was pretty well amazed by the turnout we did get. As I said, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday morning. It was during the week. And we just did it from 10 to 12, and we had a great turnout. And a lot of those people that came out on that day are still with us today.
Yes. Now, I have met a few of the people from your group, Suzanne Kimball. How did you connect with Suzanne? Did you know her previous to the Tea Party?
I did not. I did not. I didn't know Diane Lowe. Darrell Haggerty, I knew he helped me with a lot of the, you know, putting the stage together, and Scott Sorensen helped. And that was great. I mean, he had professional sound equipment there for us. So, but Suzanne had just signed up into our database, and I started sending out a few emails here and there, and she came to all the meetings, and we had an organizational meeting right after that at one of our local restaurants. And the group that showed up to that, most of them are still with us today. That was really our inner core group of real dedicated, you know, the faithful few that come out for everything. But we're all average citizens. We're from every walk of life you could imagine. Suzanne's a retired administrative assistant, and we have Daryl Haggerty, who's in insurance. I'm a housewife. Let's see, we have a couple of teachers, we have a couple of retired policemen, you name it, every profession.
From all walks
and
of life.
That's what the Tea Party is, as you know.
Now, what do you see the Sussex group being involved in this year and going forward into the 2011 elections?
Well, as you know, we're doing recall. And what had happened at that very first Tea Party meeting, everybody was energized. And I looked at those people and I made them a promise that day. And I said, this isn't about carrying signs and shouting some angry sentiments and maybe some chants and going home and feeling like you had done something, because you did nothing, if that's all we do. And we have to find something we can do to save our country. Because I had a copy of the Constitution, and I just crumbled it and threw it, and I said, this is what's happening if we don't do something. So that group was very committed, and that's where the recall was born, with that particular group. We also do something very interesting. One of our leaders is a retired teacher, and he took it upon himself. I said, we need to do teachings at every segment on the Constitution, because what we were finding is we were talking to people and we were saying, well, this isn't constitutional, or that's not constitutional. They had no idea what we were talking about. So we committed to putting a committee together, and Rich decided to take the reins on that and become our constitutional expert. So once a month we hold meetings, and at every meeting he gives a 15-minute talk about some principle or some point of the Constitution to educate the people, our members, of what it is that we're saying when we say we want limited government, we want a constitutional republic restored. So it's not just sound bites we're talking into, that people actually understand what it is we're fighting for.
That's such a challenge. I mean, we didn't receive that education in that depth in school, and we've all trusted our legislators with their responsibilities. And we woke up, and we're, I think, pretty startled to find out that they haven't done what we thought they were going to do.
Well, when I go around and I give speeches and I say, you know, you see before you an activist, what you would consider a political activist, but this political activist didn't vote until she was 40 years old. And usually I hear a gasp in the room. But we thought everybody had it under control. There are people that know what they're doing in government. They know better than I do. You know, I'm not educated enough on who's running to cast a vote. And boy, were we wrong. And this is what we got. We got what we deserved. So now we have to draw back to our principles that some of us learned back in the 8th grade about what is our system of government, how does it work. And I had to go, and I know I had to brush up myself. As much as you think you know, there's always something new to learn. And that's really what the Tea Party movement's all about. I mean, don't you find that, Michelle?
Well, definitely. For us in Bergen County, which is our main core of participation and membership, we have now a turnover of 3 of the freeholder seats and 1 sheriff seat and the county executive. And that is because people are extremely angry in Bergen County. And they turned over the seats. They're tired of the spending, they're tired of the waste, and they're tired of what's been happening. And we're going to see that more and more. And on that note, I think it's important that people realize that the votes do count. It's extremely important. Those votes in Bergen County were phenomenal in sending a message that we will not accept the spending and the frivolous disregard for the voters' wishes. So on that note, please come back for our next segment. RoseAnn's going to talk about the right to recall and what that really means to you and what it's all about. And we look forward.
With all the excitement happening with the Tea Party, it may be a little hard to separate fact from fiction. Find out the truth for yourself. Visit the New Jersey Tea Party Coalition's website at www.njteapartycoalition.org. You may find a common voice to your concerns on how our government is functioning and discover a means to help restore our nation based on the proven principles of our Constitution.
Our judges, we need the assembly.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm back here with RoseAnn Salanitri, and we're back to discuss the right to recall. And to preface that, I want to read just a little excerpt for you. The 2010 United States House of Representatives elections were held on November 2nd, halfway through President Barack Obama's first term in office. Elections were held for all 435 seats, representing the 50 U.S. states. Republicans made a net gain of at least 63 seats from Democrats and retook control of the chamber, which they lost in the 2006 midterm elections. With this election, the Republicans wiped out the gains the Democrats made in 2006 and 2008 and picked up additional seats, making it the highest of any House victory for a single party since 1948, and the highest of any midterm elections since 1938. And that, I think, embodies the frustration that the voters have. And I don't think one can look at it and say they were all so enamored of what the Republicans had, but more so angry at what the Democrats did. And that's what the vote does. The vote changes the game plan. It sends a signal. It says, we are not happy with what you have done. The Tea Party itself will keep the heat on those newly elected legislators, and they will be watching them. We are nonpartisan. We are not beholden to any particular party. So I must make that clear. And with that, that leads us into our discussion with RoseAnn. RoseAnn, you initiated the right to recall, and that was to recall Senator Menendez. How did you come to that decision?
Well, it was interesting. As we said in our last segment, when we held our first Tea Party meeting up in Sussex, I made a pledge to the people that it wasn't about carrying signs and just shouting some angry sentiments. We had to find something that was going to make a difference, because frankly, I didn't think we were going to make it to 2012 and survive as a nation. I knew we had to do something quickly. So I started looking through things, and first I looked at initiatives and referendums, and that didn't seem like it was going to take us anyplace. But one day I decided to pick up the New Jersey Constitution, and it was very clear. There it was, recall, and it just hit me like a bolt of lightning. That's what we need. We need to keep them accountable, because they were totally ignoring us. I mean, with Senator Menendez, my group alone, in a 2-day period, faxed him over 800 faxes. That's the best we could count. From I sent out the request on a Saturday morning, by Monday morning he had 800 faxes. What we got was just a very insulting type of form letter back. Well, thank you for your concern, but I'm pretty much going to do what I want to do. And it just didn't cut it. You know, we spent the summer, Michelle, you know, we were writing letters, we were making phone calls, we were sending faxes, we went to D.C., almost 2 million strong. And what did they do? Were they listening? No, they closed their doors. They didn't want to listen. We had to find something to make them listen. And recall seemed to be the perfect answer. You know, with elections, people have choices, but with recall, we keep our elected officials accountable. They can't get into office and just do whatever they want to do. We're going to recall them.
Now, why Senator Menendez?
Well,
why one and not the other? Why
I get that question all the time. and if you ask Senator Menendez, he'll tell you it's because of the sound of his last name. indicating we're some kind of a racist or something, but I think it's the first time a Caucasian's called another Caucasian a racist against them. And that had nothing to do with it. It was very simple. We have 2 senators. Their voting records are almost exactly the same, but with Bob Menendez, he's significantly younger than Lautenberg, and we thought, well, this man probably has a longer career ahead of him, so let's go after the younger senator instead of the older one. It just seemed to make sense because we didn't know how long Lautenberg would be there, given his age of 84 years old. So it was just a simple decision. You couldn't base it on their voting record. They're equally abysmal. So that's.
But can you cite some examples of Menendez's voting that was particularly
well, first
concerning?
of all, I'd like to tell people, if they write letters to Senator Menendez and he says he's in favor of something, I would encourage them to look up his voting records. There's many sources on the internet where you can do that to find out how he's voted. You can't depend on what he says. You need to look at how he's voted. For instance, when it comes to illegal immigration, he has turned the whole state into a sanctuary city. He has voted to give our hard-earned tax money to tuition for illegal aliens for their children. He has voted, you know, we have a lot of problems with Social Security. Everybody's telling us it's about to go bankrupt. Well, what is his solution? Let's add 20 million illegal aliens who haven't paid a dime into it and give them Social Security. Okay, now he will tell you he's in favor of securing our borders, but he voted against building the fence along our southern border. He'll tell you that English should be our preferred language, except he voted against English being our national language. He also voted, and whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, it has nothing to do with it. A parent's right should certainly supersede that of the state when it comes to what happens with their children. Most parents know that their children can't be given a Band-Aid or an aspirin at school without their permission, but he voted that states can give your child an abortion without telling the parents. And not only can they arrange for an abortion for your daughter without telling you, but he also voted that they could take them across state lines to do that. He also voted for partial birth abortion, which most people that are pro-choice don't even go for that horrific infanticide, which it is. It's just, I can't understand how any doctor could do that. But he's voted for an array of things that, he voted to take the 10 Commandments off of just about every opportunity he's had to vote against that. He has voted against that. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. It's hard to cite. I mean, I could be here for days telling you.
That's startling.
It is startling.
It's startling. Mm-hmm. I mean, would you consider what's happening in our schools, in our culture, that the parents wouldn't be notified? To take away the rights from the parents is just terrible. I'm at a loss for words, quite frankly, that the parents have no rights, yet they won't give an aspirin, and they have to call the mother or the father at work, and they have to get approval, but they can make such a life-altering decision without involvement of the parents. I mean, that is really startling,
yes,
to say the least.
So, I mean, the list goes on and on. Things that don't make sense to an average citizen, to a person with some mental capacity, with some common sense, and he's not exclusive. It's not just Bob Menendez. We have a whole host of legislators that have voted the same way. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the laws we are. It has to stop somewhere. It has to. And you know, with recall, we say right to hire, right to fire. We have the right to hire these people. We should have the right to fire them. But, you know, we have 3 branches of government that are supposed to check and balance each other. And the truth is that they're just rubber stamping whatever each other does. There's no check and balance. It comes to us. It reverts to us. If we're going to check and balance this government, it has to come from us. And it's not going to come from the media, which is why I support what you're doing here, which is why I do, we do R&R, our own radio show, because these alternate media channels, venues, must be supported by the public because we are not getting the truth from the traditional media venues. It used to be referred to as the fourth estate. The press was the fourth estate because whatever the judiciary or the legislator or the president, the executive branch weren't doing, they would let you know. They were the fourth estate. They were our check and balance. They're not doing their job. We have to do it. We have to pick up the slack. Otherwise, we're done. We're toast.
Well, I'm for employment at will. If it's good enough for the rest of the citizens of New Jersey, it's good enough for Senator Menendez. If they elected him, then I think he should be an employee at will.
You know, I want to read one of the things. We just went to the New Jersey Supreme Court. We had gone to the appellate court division with this case, and we won 3-0. We had a unanimous decision. Now, when we went to the Menendez appealed, and which is really peculiar because I said he's so against recall, but he started his career based on the recall of Rudy Garcia in Union City.
Is that so?
So it must have really terrified him when we started a recall against him because that's how he started his career. He knows the power of recall. But anyway, he appealed it to the New Jersey Supreme Court, which is notoriously liberal.
When did you do that?
Well, we got our decision on November 18th. We went before the May 25th.
Wow, that's quite a long
6
time
months.
to wait for a decision.
Which is interesting because they expedited the whole thing, which in 2 weeks our lawyers were scrambling. They had to have their briefs in. They fast-tracked it, and then they took 6 months to make a decision. So they voted 4-2. Now, the dissenting decision of the minority judges was scathing. They were furious. And let me read a couple of things that they said. We cannot and we will not join in the unconstitutional disenfranchisement of New Jersey citizens. Pretty strong statement. And then their closing statement was, today is indeed a sad and dark day in the history of this court. They were really furious about the decision. And they said it, meaning the majority, sees not a part of a federal system, but an elitist institution, the members of which should not have to be troubled by what the people they represent believe. And that's what the majority decision says, but these two judges, we had at least 2 good judges on that bench.
That's almost a win in New Jersey when you have 2 judges who are actually behind you, because it's a liberal it's a liberal group, per se.
Well, you know, one of the things that really annoyed me, Michelle, was when I read the decision, and I read the majority decision, and they said, well, we looked into the intention of our founders, and we could not find one place where our founders supported recall. Now, a part of our case was a letter that we found from George Washington to his nephew 2 months after the Constitutional Convention. George Washington presided over the Constitutional Convention. I would say he was one of our founders, wouldn't you? They said they couldn't find one. It was a part of our case. They wouldn't even acknowledge it. But let me read you the quote from Washington. And it tells you what the intention of our founders were. 1787, George Washington said, "The power under the Constitution will always be in the people. It is entrusted for certain defined purposes and for a certain limited period to representatives of their own choosing. And whenever it is executed contrary to their interest or not agreeable to their wishes, their servants can and undoubtedly will be recalled."
Well,
in the words of George Washington.
Well, I think that pretty much lays out your case. I mean, in clear black and white, Gee, they couldn't find that? That's amazing.
Well, we presented it in the court hearing,
Oh.
and they said that's a slim read. That's
Well,
what Justice Long said.
It sounded very clear to me.
Yeah, and then they denied that they could find anything by our founders that supported that they thought we should have the right to recall. And there it was in our briefs, in our argument, and they refused to acknowledge it.
Now, very quickly, I'd like to just ask, you intend to bring this to the Supreme Court, is that
Yes,
not
correct.
correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, so we'll be following that
Yes.
very closely to see how that works out.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I wish you the best of luck.
I wish
it is
all
a
of us.
success. Yes, because you have a great team going. Now, you do also have the radio show. Tell me, how do I find that radio show?
You could go on libertyandfreedomradio.net, and we're on Wednesday evenings between 6 and 7, and I'm on with Senator Richard LaRosa, and it's R&R, but don't expect any rest or relaxation
Yes,
there.
I've heard Lieutenant before. I've heard him speak before. He's a very empowering individual. I imagine
He's
you both
amazing.
make a good team on the radio. So we definitely tune in for that. Now you do that. You did the radio show. You got the Recall. You founded Sussex, and you're also an author.
Yes.
You have a book, a children's book.
Yes.
And the name of it is?
The First Christmas Tree.
And that's by Aunt Roro. Is that correct? Your
Yes,
Aunt Roro?
that's I'm Aunt Roro to my nieces
Okay.
and
Well,
nephews
we
and neighbors.
encourage people to take a look at it and go to the website, which is AuntRoro.com. That's great. Well, I think we've had, a terrific exchange here tonight, very invigorating, and I think you have a lot to do. We thank everybody for tuning in. Don't forget, every Wednesday evening, we'll be looking forward to seeing you.